Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Spurs Up Show. This is episode 31. Tyler, it's rivalry week. There's a little bit of a electricity in the air, if you will, a little bit more emphasis on this week. Like we said, the South Carolina Gamecocks, after getting the 31-10 win against Wofford last Saturday, take on the Clemson Tigers this Saturday night in Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll get to all of that, preview the game, recap the Wofford game as well. But first, before that, if you do want to follow the show, be sure to check us out on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Be sure to go there, rate, subscribe, tell us you like, tell us you don't like about the show. We obviously appreciate all the feedback as always. Also, be sure to follow us on our Twitter account as well, at Armchair SCAR. That's going to be at Armchair SCAR. We've had a very busy week on Twitter with the rivalry week talk, the trash talk. We love it. So go make sure you go follow us there. Again, that's at Armchair SCAR. Also, check us out on Instagram at Armchair SCarolina. And this is a podcast brought to you by the Armchair All-Americans, armchairallamericans.com. Localizing your sports coverage content. Be sure to go check us out at armchairallamericans.com for all of your latest breaking Gamecock news, coverage, and, of course, the podcast as well. So, as always, I'm your host, Chris Phillips. I'm joined by my colleague, Tyler Clark. And, Tyler, like I mentioned, we're going to get to it in a little bit, but there's a little bit more electricity in the air. You know, it is a rivalry week. Clemson's coming to town. But first, before we get into that, kind of just recap what happened Saturday really quickly. Last Saturday, South Carolina kind of goes about a business-like performance, a ho-hum performance, if you will. Get the win 31-10 over Wofford. Kind of what were some of your initial reactions and takeaways from that game?
I mean, I thought it was all right. It's kind of what I expected it to be. I didn't expect a blowout. I also didn't expect to lose. It was kind of that game where we've had all year where, you know, you kind of dominate the game, but the score doesn't really show it. Jake Bentley running the ball looks pretty cool. I just didn't think – I don't think there's much to take away from it because, I mean, there's nothing – that game's going to be nothing like what we see this weekend. So you're just like, you know, what can you possibly take away from that going into the next week?
Yeah, and I was actually watching with a buddy of mine Saturday. I was unable to be in Columbia, but I kind of told my buddy that the same thing. And the game sort of went kind of looked like I thought it would. I really thought, you know, with this South Carolina team, you know, it's going to be kind of interesting. You know, it's going to have some very interesting parts, but definitely thought South Carolina would win. And I really just told him, like, listen, man, I mean, South Carolina, all you need to do is get the win and just move on because that's all this game really is right now. It's a lot of teams had their cupcake, if you will, or their warm-up. Obviously, South Carolina's cupcake was a 9-1 Wofford team that's about to be in the FCS playoff. But, yeah, kind of like you said, a ho-hum performance. I mean, you know, they got the win. Could have won 38-10, took a knee at the 5-yard line to end the game, which classy move by Will Muschamp. But, yeah, Jake Bentley, like you said, really cool to see him running. Had 2 rushing touchdowns. Leads the team in rushing touchdowns, which isn't something I think any of us would have predicted, you know, before the season started. You know, one thing I thought was interesting early on, because it was 3-0 Wofford after the first quarter, Tyler, was some of the drops, maybe something we hadn't really seen, you know, too much of, I think, early in the season. You know, Ortre Smith had a couple bad drops. Even Brian had a drop. A couple of other ones as well. You know, Bentley's stats in the day finished up 22 of 28 for 194 and a touchdown. I mean, he could have easily been 26, 27 of 28 if, you know, all those balls are caught.
Yeah, I agree there were 5 drops. But I like the way they used him. I mean, he didn't have to make any throws that put the ball in danger or anything. They were all simple, pretty simple throws. I really like the one to Brian Edwards on the touchdown. He kind of threw it behind him, and Brian Edwards just makes a great catch. Or Trey Smith, though, I don't understand the drops. We haven't seen – I don't know if he's dropped a pass all year like that. I don't know. I'm just assuming it's kind of a lack of focus for a Wofford game. Hoping so, at least, because that was ugly.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd much rather him get those out this against Wofford, you know, kind of correct it this week than, you know, have that come up Saturday for sure. But yeah, I mean, you know, I thought Bentley played one of his more efficient games as a Gamecock, you know, maybe one of his best games. I mean, for sure. Like you said, he really never put the ball in harm's way. I don't think he ever really had to. There's a lot of screen plays, a lot of plays where, you know, Brian Edwards was able to, you know, get the ball on the screen and take it 10, 15 yards, which is definitely a weapon South Carolina's going to rely on. The one pass from Bentley to Brian Edwards on the touchdown was just a thing of beauty on that post route. I mean, it threw an absolute bullet to Brian Edwards. But, yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, I think one of the things I think South Carolina fans were definitely encouraged by Saturday was also the balance. I mean, I believe the Gamecocks, they ran for 195, passed for 194. I mean, anytime you can get that kind of balance, you're going to take it. And again, AJ Turner leading the way, 11 carries, 69 yards, had a touchdown, had a really good day. We saw Tyson Williams get back in the action, get back on the field. 8 for 58. And then, other guys like even Caleb Kinlaw, and then obviously the running ability of Jake Bentley, the kind of day he had. So I think really encouraging, because I think obviously the last couple of games, with Florida, you ran for 220, I think it was, and then you run for just under 200 in this one. Maybe gives South Carolina fans some hope that, this offensive line is kind of coming together as a unit and getting better, in the most important part of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it was really encouraging to see balance, but I didn't even know that Tyson Williams had 58 yards. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you don't know what you can take in the next week, but he took care of business. He stayed balanced. That's exactly what they want to do. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it was great to see Tyson get back. I know that I had actually heard going into the game last week that he had kind of, gotten out of the doghouse with his effort, because I think it was easy to see he was in the doghouse. I mean, as good as Mon Denson is, and he's a guy that still needs to touch the football, I mean, Tyson Williams is the kind of guy where if he's not seeing the field at all, there has to be some type of reason, because he's a pretty good player. So definitely good to see him back out there. I still think he'll be in a limited role just because of the fact that, he lacks that pass blocking ability that I think we're all pretty familiar with, where his struggle is at. But it was definitely great to see him get back in the fold. But the one thing you touched on earlier that I know we've talked about before, but continue to harp on, is Jake Bentley's running ability, and just, the plays he was able to make in the red zone especially. I know he's not Connor Shaw, and he'll probably never be Connor Shaw, not that type of running ability, but I definitely think it's going to be key kind of to continue to develop him using his legs. I don't think obviously against Clemson you're going to be able to do some of the plays you ran like against Wofford, where I back did a straight quarterback draw. I'm not sure you want to put him in that type of harm's way with some of the guys that those guys have on defense. But great to see, just great to see his running ability kind of evolve, more so as the season's going on. One thing I was going to ask you, Tyler, there were definitely some early sacks on in the game. Did you concern at all, or just kind of an anomaly for the Wofford game, kind of leave it where it's at?
Yeah, I was a little concerned with it, because I think I texted you about it. I was like, they can't even block Wofford, and they're half the size Clemson's guys are. But kind of the same thing you saw on defense, where our guys just kind of saw it for a couple drives, and then you adjust to it. I guess that was it. They saw what they were doing and realized it. I don't think they had a sack after the first quarter, did they?
No, they didn't. They just had those two, I believe.
They also lined up really weird. Did you notice on the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, they had 3 defensive linemen and dropped 9 guys? Or 8.
Yeah, no, I did see
that. That was so weird. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. And then you realize it doesn't work at all. And I think we were over 50% on 3rd down. So I mean, that didn't really work. So I guess it was just a schematic thing that they haven't seen. Maybe, I don't know. I hope so, because there were a few times Corey Helms just got burnt.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I think I'm just going to issue it to, I don't know, I mean, maybe some scheme early on or whatnot. But like you said, South Carolina did finish 6 of 11 on 3rd downs, actually 2 of 3 on 4th as well. So good stat there. One of the big stats as well that I think was, I was sort of concerned about Wofford. South Carolina actually won the time of possession battle, 33-32 to 26-28 overall time possession, which was something where I thought South Carolina, with the type of team Wofford is, South Carolina was able to get Wofford off the field, which I thought
I didn't think that would be able to happen, to be honest.
I didn't either. I really didn't. I thought South Carolina may have 5 or 6 drives, and Wofford would pretty much just chew up all the clock. It chewed up most of the first quarter too. I mean, that sort of went how we expected, but I think the turnovers as well was the big reason, one of the big reasons, and South Carolina's ability to run the football, burn clock on their side as well. You mentioned the defense, another good day for the defense. Anytime you can, again, win that time possession battle, force 3 turnovers. Sky Moore, first guy I want to bring up. Congratulations, Sky Moore. He ties the school record for interceptions, gets his 14th on the year, or excuse me, in his career, not on the year. 14th of his career, like I said, which ties a school record. Definitely a guy that South Carolina is going to miss going into next year, and definitely been a leader of this defense. Again, we talked about, I thought really, Tyler, South Carolina was able to contain the option game. I mean, obviously when you're facing the triple option, which I hope South Carolina never does again, it's going to be a challenge, but I thought that South Carolina was able to kind of step up. Guys like Dante Sawyer had a good game again. TJ Brunson, Sky Moore in the middle there. So overall, I was pretty pleased with how the defense, handled the option game on Saturday.
Yeah, I thought they did really well. Like I said last week, I thought Wofford was actually going to run the ball pretty well. But after that first drive, they didn't really do anything. Sky Moore, I think it was Sky Moore that had the face mask on the sideline that extended one of the drives. I don't know if they scored on that drive or not. It was like 2 drives that they looked like they were just going to pound it down the field easily, and then pretty much every other drive that we tackled well and stopped it.
Yeah, I mean, you only hold them to 155 yards rushing, which is I'm not sure what their season average is, but it's got to be way below that. 72 yards passing, only 227 yards of offense. So whenever you can hold a team to that numbers, you'll definitely take it. But yeah, I thought South Carolina forced Wofford to kind of throw a little more than they wanted to. I know that the announcers were kind of talking about this wasn't a typical triple option attack where they can't throw it all, but anytime you can get a team like Wofford in like a 3rd and 7, 8, 9 situation, plays like the one Sky Moore made are going to happen. So I thought they did a really good job with that. Another guy I definitely want to highlight in the defense, DJ Wanham, 2 more tackles for loss in the game Saturday. He leads the SEC in tackles for loss, guy that's just a budding star, a guy that definitely doesn't get enough recognition for the type of work he does on the defensive side. Tyler, another solid game from him, and, I'd say expect more of the same. But, yeah, I think with the key takeaways in this game, I mean, like I said, Tyler, I think this was Jake Bentley's most efficient game yet. I mean, his ability to use his legs especially, obviously deliver the football on time. I thought he looked really balanced. Was able to move the ball down the field. Again, that throw to Brian Edwards was one of the best I've seen all year, and even his career really stepped in the throw. Made solid throws all day, made really good decisions. And, I mean, South Carolina's going to need more of that, obviously, on Saturday. But, I was really, really impressed with the play of Jake Bentley after maybe he's caught some – he definitely missed some throws and caught some criticism in 2017. So it was definitely good to see that.
I kind of fell out there. What were we on? Were we on game balls?
So we're actually going over like the key takeaways and just touched on
okay.
DJ Wanham, I know, was a guy that you've been high on all season. The day he had was fantastic. He leading the SEC in tackles for loss now too. So
wow, I didn't know that either. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat. But yeah, I was just saying, I thought the game Saturday that Bentley played was one of the best he's played all season or maybe in his career, just efficiency wise, and then the ability to use his legs as well. I mean, it makes a huge difference. So, I mean, I was happy to see it just with some of the criticism he's caught this season, to come out and really have a good game. And when he should have had a good game against maybe some lesser competition, but come out and, look confident and be very efficient and lead South Carolina to the win.
Yeah, I agree. One of my takeaways, Parker White made a field goal. That was good. We tackled a lot better than I thought South Carolina would. But yeah, on the defensive line, Dante Sawyer played great. He forced the one fumble we forced. They're they're really good. They're so much improved from last year. That was probably the most needed spot of improvement on that defense. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they definitely seem to play a lot faster, physical, and with a little bit more of an edge. The other takeaway I had is just that it's crazy how much better this offense looks when there's balance and they can run the football. Obviously, we've given Kurt Roper a lot of flack on this show and, throughout social media and just, throughout the entire season. But I thought Saturday was a really well-called game, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I definitely think there's just still improvement where in situational type plays where you have a 4th and 1 or 3rd and short or whatever it is. I mean, I don't think any offensive coordinator is going to be perfect. I thought it was a much better game from Roper. But it's crazy to see how much different this offense looks when they are able to run the football. And I think the running game has gotten more creative with the outside runs. And I think the emergence of A.J. Turner has helped that as well. But, it's just something where you need to continue to see that every single week. And I think if they do, I mean, I think this offense has a lot of potential to continue to grow.
I think on those outside runs, I think the most important thing is to get, into the second level where your tight ends can block like Hayden Hurst. Because it seems like every time they get past the offensive line, Hayden Hurst sets just an insane block and gets you 10, 15 extra yards. So I mean, I feel like once you get past AJ Turner gets past those defensive linemen, he can get past the linebackers.
Yeah, Jacob August too. He's nasty.
Oh yeah,
on the field. He's not scared to put somebody on their back for sure. But yeah, with that being said, we will move into the game balls now. I'll start first, Tyler. I'm offense. I'm going to go Brian Edwards. You know, had a couple drops, but he had a really solid game. I think he had just under 100 yards receiving. Really showed, his ability as a possession receiver on a couple of those screen plays and able to make a couple of guys miss. He's shown that ability all year as well, so no surprise there. And then had the nice touchdown catch. And then on defense, I'm going to go with Rashad Fenton. He's a guy that obviously has had an incredible start to the season. I talked with Brad Crawford last night, and he's actually said the Rashad's fell off a little bit, got exposed kind of against Vanderbilt, but got the interception on Saturday. It was a really good thing for him. I still think he's, South Carolina's best cover corner. So it was great to see Rashad get that interception. And, hopefully we'll carry that momentum into the matchup with Clemson on Saturday.
I'm going to give mine on offense to AJ Turner because he finally gets into the end zone. Jake Bentley's been stealing a lot of his touchdowns the last couple games. Mon Denson stole a couple, so it's good to see AJ back in the end zone. Defense, I'll give mine to Dante Sawyer because the most important thing going into that game was forcing turnovers, and if they don't throw the ball, you got to force fumbles. He was able to get that way. It was beautiful. You could see him come up behind the runner. His only intent was getting the ball out. Forces it perfectly. Gamecocks fall on it. So I thought he played extremely well.
Yeah, and on that play as well, the runner, I think, was about 10 yards down the field and swatted it out. So it was a huge play for sure. I mean, just, a momentum-changing type play for sure. So the kind of play he's had a knack for all season. We're going to wrap up the Wofford game, and Tyler, we're going to get into, it's rivalry week. Clemson comes to town Saturday. First off, the Gamecocks, if you missed it actually tonight, college football playoff rankings came out. The Gamecocks ranked 24th in the college football playoff rankings. So it will be, if you go by those rankings, a ranked matchup on Saturday in Williams-Brice Stadium. 7:30 kickoff on ESPN, nationally televised at Williams-Brice. Clemson opens the game as a 14-point favorite. Over-under set at 46.5 right now. Overall series, Clemson leads 68-42-4. And Tyler, I know that we try to forget but can't what happened last year in the Clemson Tigers 56-7 win in Death Valley last year, which when South Carolina got completely dominated. Clemson's coached by Dabo Swinney. They are actually third in the college football playoff rankings now after Miami jumped ahead of them. They sit with a 10-1 overall record, with that one loss being to Syracuse on the road there. So with that being said, Tyler, before we kind of break everything down, I'm curious just to South Carolina, comes in this game obviously 8-3, have had a great, a pretty solid year. I mean, I think a year where, I'm not sure if they were slightly above or kind of right at your predictions before the season, but a solid year nonetheless. I mean, I think South Carolina fans would be hard to argue that this has been a disappointment or anything like that. The Gamecocks are definitely riding momentum. I mean, they had the loss to Georgia, but have won, fair share of their last couple of games. And I do think coming to this game, a much, much improved football team, obviously from last year, but especially from early on this season. Tyler, talk about kind of your feelings, how you're feeling during this rivalry week. Obviously, we talked all kind of off air, been a ton of smack talk, been a ton of back and forth, from yourself, obviously myself as well. Talk about kind of how you're feeling going into this matchup.
I don't really know how I feel. I'm obviously excited because rivalry week's always fun. I've had a couple good tweets. That's important to me. So it's just a fun week. It always is. Obviously, last year's game is the worst game I've ever been to in my entire life. That's the only game I've ever left early. So obviously there's a bitter taste in your mouth. It's going to be fun. I don't know how I feel about both teams being ranked. I feel like that could potentially be a distraction. I'm glad it's only one poll. I mean, it's cool to see, but I mean, if you lose, what's it worth? So it's only cool if the Gamecocks go out there and act like they're a top 25 team and win.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the emotions for you as well. Obviously, I was in Clemson last year, thankfully. But obviously last year was, something we all want to forget. And obviously this game is this game this year. But I'm really excited, to be honest. I'm really itching for Saturday. I don't know what it is. I just think with the atmosphere, the night game and Williams-Brice, Justin King calling out the student section to be there 30 minutes before kickoff and, really make this a raucous environment. I mean, I think this is going to be probably the wildest atmosphere since Clemson 2013. I even heard, saw a Gamecock pundit today he said he thought it would be as crazy as like 2012 Georgia. So I just think it's going to be.
I've ever seen was 2012 Georgia.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be a wild environment. I mean, it's going to be obviously a sold out crowd. So it should be a lot of fun. I mean, anytime you get in this rivalry week, there's definitely banter, there's trash talk. I definitely feel a lot better coming into this game than I did last year. You kind of felt like you kind of almost see what was coming last year. South Carolina was struggling, limping to us. They were 6-5, but just struggling to that bowl game that season. This season, I really feel a different type of momentum. And Will Muschamp talked about it, I thought, a little bit in his presser today when they kind of asked him, what's the difference between last year's team and this year's team? And the biggest thing I took away from what he said is that he said this team, they compete. And, I'm not sure it's last year's team really, when they got in that game, I thought they were a little intimidated, a little shook. I mean, obviously it was in Clemson, but I just thought that team didn't really compete. And that's obviously where the whole never again thing came from. Never again will we be embarrassed like that. Never again will we get beat like that. We all know the spiel. So, I guess the question is, I don't want to loom on last year, Tyler. It's a completely different game, but obviously the Gamecocks today, I'm sure you watched, were asked in their media availability today, how does that loss, sit with you guys and motivate you guys? I'm not sure if you heard like what Alan Knott said, but he actually said that, it still bothered him the way that Clemson kind of showboated at the end of that game, called timeouts to, I say that with air quotes, obviously. And that was something that, he said they were going to get their revenge. I'll ask you, do you think that loss last year plays into this game at all as far as a revenge factor? Do you think it's completely meaningless? What's your take on it?
I think it has to be. It was like a 24-21 game. And it's like, okay, next year we'll get them. But this is 56-7. And South Carolina was lucky to score in that game, to be honest. I think it was on a trick play with Brandon McElwain.
Debo Samuel to Brian Edwards. I watched it today.
Yeah, so they were lucky to score in that game. That game was, after the block field goal from South Carolina, that game was completely dominated, like in every single imaginative way. So I think for the guys that played in that game, it has to be, like a measure of how much better you've gotten in a year. And we've seen from everybody that's talked pretty much all season, every player, they talk about how much better and how much improved and how much smarter, how much better they prepare, how much more capable they are to make adjustments and stuff like that. I think it has to be. If it's not, then you probably shouldn't be playing football in the SEC.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was another question they asked Alan Knott today was, do you think those guys respect you on that other side? And he quickly was just said no. I mean, this one's personal, man. This one has to be personal. I mean, this is, they don't respect – Clemson doesn't respect South Carolina. Definitely not after last year, how the game went. This is about pride, man. I mean, this is about, you've heard a lot of South Carolina players talking about, and Scott Moore said it a bunch, playing with an edge. He talked about the 2013 team they had an edge, playing with an edge. And I've heard people, asking, well, what exactly does that mean? You got to come out there and just not be afraid of these guys, not be afraid.
Baker Mayfield last Saturday is playing with an edge.
Right. I was going to say, you can't be afraid to come out and hit these guys in the mouth, man. I'm just, set the tone. It's going to be all about setting the tone early in this game for your pride. I mean, this game is personal. There is revenge in this game that needs to be had. I mean, for sure. I mean, if you, like you said, if you can't get fired up for this one, you're playing the wrong sport for sure. I think one of the biggest keys, Tyler, in this game, something that helped, obviously was huge for South Carolina and their 5-game winning streak, was the turnover battle. I mean, it was something big. Those teams were, pretty decently evenly matched, honestly. South Carolina consistently over and over and over again was able to win the turnover battle, force guys like Taj Boyd to make bad decisions, force fumbles, stuff like that. The biggest, one of the biggest things to me, Tyler, is, can South Carolina win the turnover battle? They're going to have to if they expect to win Saturday night.
Yeah, there's outside of that and just stopping their running attack. There's no way if Clemson runs just all over South Carolina, there's no way to win that game. But yeah, turnovers are 100%, and I think they're going to have to come through the air.
No, yeah, absolutely. And then obviously on the other side, I think South Carolina. If you're the Gamecocks, you have to find a way to run the football. I mean, you just don't want to get caught in the situation you were in against Georgia where you have Jake Bentley out there kind of just kind of airing it out every single play and sort of hoping it works, hoping something sticks. I mean, I think you have to find a way, and that's where the creative play calling is going to come through. Can you get the running game going? Obviously, Clemson, we know, has a great front seven. Their defensive line's one of the best in the country, but can you get creative in your scheme? How are you going to use A.J. Turner, maybe even Tyson Williams as well to get that running game going, take some of the heat off of Jake Bentley? And again, Tyler, I think Jake Bentley's going to have to use his legs in this game. That RPO, that read option is not going to work if he's not willing to pull the ball and run. And I really hope that, they're kind of preaching that this week because, again, I think it just gives that South Carolina offense another weapon. It's another guy to worry about. I mean, really, I would love to see that kind of that read option. And I'm sure it's in the RPO package where I'd love to see Bentley kind of, read the defense like he's going to keep it and then sort of roll out and then pass. I mean, I haven't seen, we've seen that a little bit, but, I just think that's a great play, honestly, when it's executed correctly. I think, Tyler, I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I haven't watched a ton of Clemson games this year just because of the simple fact that it seems like the two teams have played at pretty much the same time every week.
I think every time except for two or so.
Yeah, it's been pretty weird. But from what I have seen, and I definitely watched like the Syracuse game. Clemson has shown a little bit of vulnerability against the pass, against passing teams that can move, throw the ball down the field. Tyler, I just think it's going to be key. You got guys again like Brian Edwards or Trey Smith, Shi Smith. You've got Hayden Hurst, Jacob August. Guys like that on the outside, those weapons. It's just going to be absolutely key. Guys like A.J. Turner coming out of the backfield. It's going to be absolutely key to move the ball down the field, be able to throw it in the vertical passing game, and really test this Clemson secondary.
Yeah, it's going to be so difficult to run against that front seven. They're going to have to throw the ball, and I think the only weak spot on that Clemson defense is the secondary. I know they've had a lot of injuries. We have a group chat with all of our friends, and there's two Clemson fans, and they always complain that Dabo throws all the legacy guys out there, and they're all defensive backs, and they all just get torched, and they get mad every single week. So I'd like to see that happen. But, they're going to have to throw the ball. And the guys, like, we do key matchups here in a second. Obviously, my only key matchup is the receivers, getting open against those defensive backs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's going to be key. Again, I mean, just beating your man off the line, like you're a guy like Brian Edwards. I saw today, winning those 50-50 balls. I think that's going to be, a huge matchup as well.
Being chance for the 50-50 balls because we haven't seen it that much, especially in the red zone. Like, there's no fade balls to Brian Edwards because I feel like he's going to win that matchup against a lot of D-backs.
Yeah, like we saw the back shoulder fade against Georgia, and it worked to perfection. So, I mean, maybe something like that. Like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see. I think Clemson's going to try to honestly stop the running game and get pressure on Bentley with four guys down and, try to cover those receivers. So, again, I mean, it's going to be a line of scrimmage game. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself with the keys of the game, but this game's going to be all about the line of scrimmage. And, again, that toughness and, like we said, playing with an edge. This is a pride game, man. I mean, this is a game you got to show up for, and love to stick your face in the fan, like Will Muschamp says. Really be willing to be physical, compete your tail off, and whip the guy in front of you. I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to, because that's what's going to open up the running game. That's what's going to give Jake Bentley time to throw. And on the flip side, we haven't talked about it a whole lot, so we'll get to that. The Clemson offense with Kelly Bryant at quarterback, they've got a ton of playmakers there as well. Tyler, I have to say this. I don't really want to jinx myself or, the team, but Kelly Bryant's just not a guy that scares me back there. He's not this, he's not Deshaun Watson.
I'll agree with that.
Clearly,
but
that's as clear as day. And then, Deion Kane is a great guy on the outside. I think it's just because of what they had last year with Mike Williams and Deshaun Watson. But Kelly Bryant, I'm not sure if you knew this. He only had 9 passing touchdowns before the game last week. He threw 3 against the Citadel, which gives him 12 to the point. But he only had 9 passing touchdowns all season. So this Clemson team, without a doubt, is going to try to establish the run. They're going to try to creative in the running game, run the football, get a push with their O-line, and then sort of rely on Kelly Bryant to throw, whenever they need him to. But, listening to the South Carolina defenders today as well in their their press conference, their media availability today, they talked about, containing Kelly Bryant. It's going to be all about contain, because I kind of get the sense he's at least a 50-50 guy when it comes to, does he prefer to run or pass? I think he's kind of in the middle. I'm not sure he's definitely not a pure pocket passer. But it's going to be key for them to, get back there, rattle Kelly Bryant, get in his head, the crowd get into it as well. And maybe force him to make some bad decisions and, like you were saying, force a couple of those turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with the whole scare part, because I think he's one of the best quarterbacks South Carolina's faced this year, with Ryan Finley, probably Jake. Who else I'm missing there? But I feel like he's up there with those guys. He throws a really good ball, and then he just adds in that rushing part. We've seen over and over and over what happens. I guess that's kind of in the past, because we haven't seen that much this season. But just the running quarterbacks lose and contain on them. That's the only thing that scares me about Kelly Bryant. Yeah, I don't think he's bad. But Hunter Renfrow as well with Deion Kane is also extremely good. But like you said, it's all in the running game. They have, I think, 3 running backs that pretty much get a bunch of carries every game. It's kind of what we thought South Carolina would have going into this season, where they would just kind of see who has the hot hand, keep fresh legs, keep them bouncing in and out. But these are speed guys. It's kind of the opposite of what you get from Georgia, where Nick Chubb just runs you over. These guys are quick, fast feet. It's just a different running game than we've seen. NC State's running back, I forget his name. He was pretty quick, but this is kind of 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, I don't so much think – I think Kelly Bryant's a really good player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a really good player. I mean, he's obviously a 5-star guy. He's a guy that has obviously jumped right into their system. They're 10-1 for a reason. I just think with him, I don't know. I just say he was such a leader and such a guy that had the knack to make those big plays and those really pressure-packed moments. You think of the national championship game, both of them really, but especially the one they won. I'm just interested to see how Kelly Bryant does in this game. I think that's a huge, huge key to this game, is the play of Kelly Bryant specifically, because one guy that I think of that was a really good Clemson quarterback that sort of struggled against the Gamecocks is a guy named Taj Boyd. I mean, he was statistically the greatest Clemson quarterback ever before Deshaun Watson. And he's, for some reason, just could not play against this South Carolina team. Obviously, those South Carolina teams had a guy named Jadeveon Clowney coming off at the end. But it'll just be interesting to me if they're able to get to him early, because I think Dabo is going to try to come out and throw it early and get up early. With knowing who he is, I think they'll try to come out and get up early. And if they're able to get to him and get this crowd involved, like I said, and kind of get Kelly Bryant maybe second guessing himself and making him get a little bit too quick at the line of scrimmage, or quick with his reads, whatever. Be a huge, huge matchup for this defensive line. Guys like DJ Wanham, again, Dante Sawyer, Javon Kinlaw, the guys that we know, obviously, getting in that backfield and getting to Kelly Bryant, because I guarantee you that they're going to be coming after him all night. With that being said, kind of brings us to our key matchups. Tyler, I'll start with one. This is one, a guy, like I said, mentioned earlier, had some choice words today. Said, we're going to get our revenge. Obviously took offense to the actions of Clemson last year. Well, you got to come out and prove it this week. Come out and have a great game. And that's USC center Alan Knott against Clemson defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, right there in the middle. Dexter Lawrence, one of the best D linemen in the country. Is a guy that you'll see all over ESPN, the highlight reels, whatnot. He's a guy with great quickness, strength, all of that. And it's going to be key for not only Allen not blocking wise, but, making the adjustments at the line of scrimmage, calling out the, the pressures and stuff like that, being the leader on that offensive line. So I think that's going to be a huge matchup going into Saturday night, not along with the rest of the offensive line, but especially the play of Allen not in the middle.
Yeah, I'll stay with the same line. Christian Wilkins, kind of a breakout season last year, did choice things against Ohio State. But he's extremely good too. So, I mean, if you stop Dexter Lawrence, you got to stop Christian Wilkins. He lines up everywhere, so I don't really – there's not one specific guy. If you name those two, you feel like you have a pretty good chance you'll have to throw the ball. So, yeah, Christian Wilkins is pretty much, along with Dexter Lawrence, the guy you have to stop.
Absolutely. Yeah, my second matchup on the day, I talked about it a little bit earlier. Again, I think Clemson's obviously going to – they're going to try to establish the run, but I think they're going to throw a little bit more than we all expect. And I think one of the bigger matchups in that is going to be USC cornerback Rashad Fenton against Clemson wide receiver Deion Kane. We all remember what Clemson did to this secondary last year. Absolutely just shredded them. I mean, Clemson had over 600 yards of offense. We all remember the Jamarcus King piggyback ride, if you will, against Mike Williams. That's going to be a huge matchup. I'm really glad to see Jamarcus King as well playing his best football. I think coming in this game, I think he's going to have a lot to prove coming off from last year. I expect him to make a couple plays, honestly, but I expect Rashad Fenton to be on Deion Kane all night. And if you're able to shut him down, which Fenton has been able to do, most teams, number one wide receiver, Kane's a very, very capable athlete. But I definitely think that's going to be – I think that would be one of those matchups that would honestly be fun to just put a camera on and watch them go to work. I think two guys that might, good chance they might both be in the league one day. And then, my last match, Tyler, I know you probably see it. And this one once before this season, but there was something that just made me put this on there. And that's South Carolina Gamecocks against themselves. And the reason I put that, Jake Bentley came out today. They kind of asked him about just kind of the emotions of this game. Obviously, this is a huge, huge week. I mean, this is a big week. I think this is the most excitement around this rivalry in this game, if you will, in a long time. I think since at least 2014, if not 2013, where, South Carolina and Clemson. I mean, I think the stat was this is the sixth most wins combined between the two schools coming in the rivalries. I mean, this is a big game. I mean, this is a really big game. Or fourth, yeah, something like that. It's, there haven't been a whole lot of these games where both these teams are, at the points they are right now as far as wins and losses go. Either way, there's a lot of buzz surrounding this week. There's a lot of talk and a lot of trash talk, and there will be a lot of emotions come Saturday night. I mean, the crowd's going to be shaking. Williams-Brice is going to be swaying. Who knows what the uniforms are going to be like. It's going to be actually a crazy atmosphere. But Jake Bentley talked about something I thought was interesting with the Kentucky game. He said guys were waiting at the door 8 to 10 minutes before kickoff. We're, really hype and everything. And he was sitting there kind of like, guys, we don't kick off for 10 minutes. Like, just chill out a little bit. He said they get out there. First play of the game is a touchdown. He thought they actually hit their emotional high at that point in the beginning of the game. And he thought that was one of their downfalls in that game, was something they kind of had to have a learning lesson, from that, to kind of just be more even keel, kind of just take the game as it comes. I just think that game Saturday night, they're going to have to do the same exact things with come out. It's a 4-quarter game, be even keel. When South Carolina was able to beat Clemson those 5 years in a row, when they had a leader, they had Connor Shaw kind of leading the helm. The moment never got too big for those guys. They could have been down, up, whatever it was. It never seemed like they let their emotions get the best of them. And I think that's going to be a huge key again, on Saturday night, especially if you come out, obviously, if you get a lead or a stop or anything like that, that crowd's going to be rocking. I mean, you're going to have all the support and the atmosphere you need. Stay within yourself, play your game, execute the game plan. They may, and South Carolina might find themselves, on the right end of this thing.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. I think another one, you obviously already talked about it, but Jamarcus King, this has to be probably the most personal game for anyone because, there's every time you tweet a Clemson fan this week, you get responded to with the gif of Mike Williams carrying Jamarcus King 10 yards. That's embarrassing. I don't care who you are. who you're a fan of, but Jamarcus King, he's obviously played so much better. Probably the last 8 games of the year. I think the first 4 were abysmal. But the last 8, he's gotten a lot better. He's made tackles. He's, deflected passes. He's made a ton of plays where, he leaves the guy open a little bit, but his closing speed's so much better, and he can break up those passes. He's just so much better. I don't know who will be on this weekend, but it'll be definitely interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, I agree with you in the fact this will be it's definitely going to be a personal game for a lot of guys. Definitely him. Yeah, for sure. Another guy, it's funny. Somebody pointed this out on Twitter today about that specific play. If you watch that play really closely, you see obviously Jamarcus King, jump on the back, but you see DJ Smith right there in the middle of the pile in that play, really just kind of evade the tackle and just let the guy fall in. And what you see about 5 seconds later is Dante Sawyer run up to him and just chew into him. So I think for this entire defense, they got to take what happened personally and come into this game, expecting to dominate. Because, anytime you give up 56 points to a team, one guy obviously didn't have a good play and it's all over Twitter, blah, 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 stuff like that. But this entire defense, has something to prove to me, I think to everyone and to themselves on Saturday as well. And that's something Will Muschamp is going to be preaching all week because that's his defense. So I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised when they come out, with a great game plan and with a lot of energy and emotion as well. We already really touched on it, Tyler, but keys of the game, create turnovers, be opportunistic like South Carolina's done all season. I'm not sure if you actually saw this. South Carolina leads the SEC in turnovers in 21. They're ahead of Alabama now. So that's pretty impressive. They've had a knack for the ball for sure. My second key to the game, a line of scrimmage game. It's pretty simple. I feel like I say it a lot, but it's really going to come down to the guys up front on both sides of the football. Can you establish some type of a running game, give Jake Bentley some time to throw, and can you, obviously slow down that Clemson running game and get in Kelly Bryant's face and, again, force him into some bad decisions. And then my last key, like I already touched on, don't let the moment get too big. Stay within yourself. This is at the end of the day, this is a game. It's against your arch rival. Play with a lot of passion, but it's all about playing with, controlled aggression, as they call it. Don't let the moment get too big. Like I said, again, you might find yourself in the fourth quarter in a dogfight, and at that point, in my opinion, all the pressure goes on to Clemson.
Yeah, I think my biggest key for this game is for both sides of the ball to play off of each other. I think I said the same thing last year. Because I remember the spread was like 24 points, and I was like, man, I'd bet my truck on this spread. Carolina's going to cover this all day. And then, as soon as the momentum was gone, it was really, really gone. If South Carolina wins the toss for probably the 10th time this year, they'll take the ball 100%. And if you go down and score, could you imagine what the defense would be doing to duck if you buck first drive for Clemson going out there?
Get the music playing.
That would probably be the loudest Williams-Brice has ever been. And if the biggest thing for the Georgia game, if you remember the Brian Edwards touchdown drive, it was 10 plays, 75 yards in about 6 minutes. South Carolina gets all the momentum. Georgia gets the ball right back, goes exactly 10 plays, 75 yards. Same exact drive, Georgia's got the momentum. After that, the game was pretty much sealed. So I think, if both sides play off of each other, they can make big plays and back-to-back drives on both sides. I think, the momentum would take a lot to ruin that momentum.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I really do like that a lot, for sure. And one thing I want to touch on, because we're about to get into predictions, one thing I want to touch on that's interesting in this game as well, Tyler, is that I don't think either team really trusts their kicker. This is something that hasn't really been talked about with Clemson very much, but they've had their struggles kicking the football as well. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if the kicker's made a field goal outside of 40 yards this season. So if you're able to make this
towards ACL in practice halfway through.
That's right. Yeah, and the guy that's replacing, like I said, hasn't made one outside of 40 yards. So I think, controlling the red zone, which has been something where, South Carolina's had room for improvement all season long. But if the team that's able to convert from the red zone is able to make touchdowns and not have to kick field goals, is the team that's going to win this football game, I think, at the end of the day. You can give up all the yards you want between the 20s, but it's like Muschamp says, this is our territory, own the red zone. I think that's going to be another huge proponent of this game. Which can South Carolina bow up when Clemson gets in the red zone? And then when they get down there on offense, will they be able to convert, use the Jake Bentley running ability, use the like you said, maybe the fade pattern, use Hayden Hurst for the love of God? Which team's going to be able to convert? I think that's going to be a huge part of this game as well. So, without anything else, Tyler, we're going to do it. We got to predict this football game. I'll let you start. Who do you got?
Oh, man. Y'all are not going to like this at all. I don't see South Carolina's going to have to be able to run the ball for at least 150 yards to have any chance in this game. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it against that front seven, because I just don't see where this turns into a shootout where Jake Bentley is just a freaking gunslinger and they go out there and just trade blows. I think Clemson's they're going to come out with tempo like they always do. I don't know if A.J. Turner and Tyson Williams have it in them against that front seven, because another thing from last year, I don't obviously want to talk about last, like we said, but the first drive, you take the ball and you throw the ball 3 times. That completely just screws you over, because you don't know if you can run the ball or not. You have to go out and you have to stick to a game plan 100%. I don't know if they'll be able to run it, and I think that'll be their downfall. I will take Clemson 31, South Carolina 14. Not good at all. But this is not me saying like, hey, South Carolina doesn't have a chance in this game, because that's only one thing. I feel like that's the most important thing, is South Carolina being able to run the ball, because I feel like South Carolina will be able to throw the ball. But, like we heard this morning from Muschamp, if you get one-dimensional, you're going to find yourself down real quick.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I think being able to establish the run is going to be key. This game, obviously, this is a big one. I mean, this is one I've been thinking about all week. Like I said, I'm fired up for Saturday. Can't wait for the game to get here. There's a different vibe around this one than there has been the last couple of years, really. I mean, obviously, we know what happened in 2015 and the last year, and 2014 was even I even kind of had the sense of where it was like, South Carolina's got to lose. They can't win 6 in a row. I mean,
I was at that game too. That was an interesting game. That was a noon game at Clemson. It was awful.
And South Carolina went up 7-0. And I was like, wow, is this about to happen again? But anyways, there hasn't been the kind of vibe that this week has brought since 2013, most likely. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a gut check game. I mean, this is test your manhood. I think that South Carolina said all the right things. Will Muschamp, I thought today was funny. He was very businessman-like. It was about a 10-minute press conference. I mean, he's just like, hey, let's get in, get some questions, get out. Allen, most of the guys were pretty, didn't really say anything, any bulletin board material. I mean, you had Allen Knott saying they disrespected us. That was something that, was said after the game last year, obviously, with the timeouts and the supposed calling of the N-word to the players, stuff like that. But again, looking at the game this season, it's a gut check. This is for respect. This is for pride. This is a very important game. I think South Carolina knows that. I know Will Muschamp knows that. I know this team's looking for revenge. Again, it's going to be the kind of game where 7:30 kickoff at night in Williams-Brice. A lot of weird things happen in rivalry games. It's a way different Clemson team than last year. There's no Deshaun Watson. There's no Mike Williams. It's still a fantastic defense, and they're still a really good football team, without a doubt. South Carolina, I agree with you. They're going to have to establish some kind of running game, just something with A.J. Turner, with Tyson Williams, Mon Denson, whoever it is, with the running ability of Jake Bentley to open up the downfield passing game, where I think they can definitely have some success. I don't know. I think, I really, for some reason, have a good feeling about this one. I think 14 is way too much at home. I think it's way, way too much. And, again, in rivalry games, anything can happen. I think Muschamp will have a really good scheme coming out. I think South Carolina's defense has improved week over week, and we'll have another fantastic game in this one. Again, it's going to be a line of scrimmage game, but I think turnovers will be the difference in this one. Clemson doesn't turn the football over a whole lot. And, they've obviously started their season off. They've gone to a couple of hostile road environments. They did go to Blacksburg. There's been a lot of talk this week, I think it's funny, about South Carolina's schedule this year and They really haven't played anybody tough. You look at Clemson's schedule, it's actually not that much different. You look at the amount of ranked teams each team has played, it's really not that much different. And really, you just look at the teams on paper, it doesn't really feel that much different, in my opinion. I don't know. With this one, I've seen a lot of scores, 2-3 touchdowns, on the side of the Clemson Tigers. But again, I'll say this. This is a game about pride. This is a game about respect. This is a game about revenge. I think South Carolina comes out and takes it really personal from last year. And with that being said, I'm gonna be that guy and be bold. I think South Carolina comes out, plays their best game of the season, gets the win 24-21 at home, and Parker White makes a field goal to win it. So we'll see. Yeah, I think Parker White, I don't think it'll be a long field goal, and I'm not sure it'll be to win it necessarily like I just said, but I think a field goal will be the difference.
Okay.
I could see, I'll tell you this, I could see 27-21 type score, 24 or 27-1 type score either way. I think it's just going to come down, honestly, to a turnover or two. I really do. Like I said, I just think South Carolina is going to come out with a lot of emotion. I think they learned from the Kentucky game. I think it'll be a controlled emotion. I think South Carolina gets the win. I really do. I have a great feeling about this game. I don't really know why. So, I'm willing to ride or die and see what happens. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe they can prove me right. So, like I said, Tyler has the 31-17. I've got the bold prediction, the 24-21. So it should be a fun Saturday night. That's for sure. Either way, it's going to be a fun game.
Fun, yeah.
I think it'll be the complete opposite of what happened last year, without a question. And Williams-Brice will be rocking. So, like I said, again, can't wait for Saturday night. Moving on, Tyler, we got a couple listener questions here. One, both from Reddit, actually. This one comes from Passive F First. Can we stop Clemson's rushing attack and force Kelly Bryant to put the ball in the air? Also, on the flip side of that, can we get A.J. Turner and Mon Denson going at that good Clemson front? Or do you think we're just going to try to beat them in the passing game like we did against Georgia? Literally just asked the question we were just talking about. Can we stop Clemson's rushing attack? No. Can we slow it down? Yes. Can we force Kelly Bryant to put it in the air? In my opinion, Tyler, yes. I think, like I said, I think he's going to throw it more than you expect. I really, really do. I think Clemson's going to come out feeling good from last year and try to expose the secondary again. They're going to try to obviously establish the run, but I think South Carolina will be able to slow that down. Look for Javon Kinlaw to have a big game. Can Turner and Denson get going? Again, I think it'll be – they might not get going, but it may be just enough, for instance. And honestly, I don't think you can really take that Georgia game plan against Clemson Saturday night. I just think you have to be able to run a little bit more, get a little bit more creative. But, we'll see. Again, it's going to be a line of scrimmage game. So.
Yeah, I don't think the game plan against Georgia was to go out there and throw the ball. I think, they tried to run the ball. It didn't work, and they quickly vacated it. I think it's going to be similar. They're going to come out and try and be balanced against Clemson. If one of the other doesn't, let's say they start running the ball, they're going to keep running the ball if they can't throw the ball. Either way, I think they're going to stick to it. It might be excruciating to watch, but I think they'll stick to it the whole game. I don't think they're going to try and just air it out. It just doesn't make sense, and it didn't work against Georgia. But I feel like running the ball wise, Georgia didn't have. I mean, they were Georgia, and they had averaged 5 yards a carry. It just didn't seem like it. They only scored 24 points. So I think if you could do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have one more question from Reddit. Wimmy Wom Wom Wobble, which is a very interesting username there. Wimmy Wom Wom Wobble asks, what is the goal for this game? Do we need to force Kelly Bryant to throwing the ball, seeing his receivers are pretty lackluster?
Ooh.
How important is it to block Hunter Renfrow? Well, first of all, I don't know if their receivers are very lackluster. Renfrow and Deion Kane alone are pretty solid. Then you add in guys like Ray McLeod. They got some weapons. I mean, I think to call them lackluster is pretty Wofford has some pretty lackluster receivers.
There you go.
I don't know if Clemson does. But do you need to force Kelly Bryant to throw in the ball? Again, it's kind of the same question. I mean, yeah, what's the goal for this game? To me, Tyler, I mean, it's the game. The goal is to win. I mean, there are no moral victories in this game. There won't be any moral victories, I think, from South Carolina fans. Maybe Gamecock fans were feeling good after the 24-10 loss at Georgia. It was encouraging or whatnot, if you will. I don't see that being the case in this one. I just don't. I can't see that being the case. This is a rivalry game. This is a game. The goal is to win this football game. So, but yeah, I think the more you can force Kelly Bryant to throw, the better. I think your odds of, forcing turnovers and stopping Clemson on offense and getting the football quickly back to your offense obviously becomes higher if you do that. So,
yeah, I agree.
So, with that being said, we're pretty much going to wrap this one up. Yeah, again, guys, if you want to follow us, be sure to check us out on iTunes, the Spurs Up Show. Go there, rate, subscribe. We appreciate all the feedback. Again, follow us on our Twitter account at ArmchairSCar. Like I said, it's been a fun week. If you want to get on the rivalry talk, make sure you go there because it has been nothing short of legendary. Also, check us out on Instagram at ArmchairSCarolina. And again, be sure to go to armchairamericans.com for all of your latest breaking coverage there. We'll have full coverage of the Clemson, South Carolina game, all of our reactions, and of course, the podcast as you know it. Again, it should be a fun one. It's rivalry week in the state of South Carolina. Before we close, Tyler, you got anything else? Any more thoughts? Or
I'm curious of who you have in the Alabama-Auburn game.
Yeah, I'm going to Auburn in that one too, actually. At home, Alabama's got a couple of linebackers injured. The way Auburn's playing, it wouldn't shock me at all. I think Auburn easily plus 4.5. I don't think you'll need them. I think Auburn wins that football game, which would set up for a very interesting I personally, I love the chaos. So if Auburn could win and South Carolina could beat Clemson, I would personally love it. I want to see pure chaos at the top.
So if you could pick your top four for the playoff, who would you pick?
As of right now, or like who do I think it'll be?
No, who would you want? Who would you want?
Oh, who would I want as far as like drama and good storylines and stuff like that? Man, that's tough. I mean, South Carolina, I want them in it. No. Man, that's interesting. I mean, Miami, I'd really like to see the turnover chain. Oklahoma, I have to say I'm kind of a Baker Mayfield guy. I like Mayfield.
Last week, I'm a Baker Mayfield fan.
Yeah. So Oklahoma, Miami. God, I'd kind of like to see two SEC teams in there, to be honest. I don't know. I'd like to see Bama. It's always fun to see Bama in a matchup like that. You know, see how they can do. If Auburn wins, again, you know, I don't want to say Georgia because I don't want to see Georgia in there. But I'd like to see, you know, either Auburn or Georgia, honestly, because if Auburn does win that game and goes to the title game, you know, I want to see an SEC team in there. And there's going to be an SEC team in there no matter what. I don't want to see Wisconsin. I really don't. I know they're undefeated, but they're such a boring football team. I just don't want – I think they would get absolutely killed. So I'd probably go Miami, Oklahoma. I'd like to see Alabama and Georgia both back in there, actually. Have them play each other.
I want to see – I think there's still a path. If South Carolina beats Clemson this weekend, that puts Clemson out. They're done. Right. I don't think they get in. So I would want Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, and then outside of the box here, if Ohio State takes care of business against Michigan, beats Wisconsin in the conference championship, and they get help, I think they can get in to be that fourth.
That is a very interesting one. They do kind of still have a road to get there.
Yeah, so those are the four I'd like to see. I'd like to see Alabama and Ohio State. And then Miami, Oklahoma.
I'll ask you this, more relevant to South Carolina. Where would you like to see them go to a bowl game, man? Because there's obviously been a ton of speculation about that.
I'd like to see like the New Year's Day bowls in Florida. One of those. I feel like they always play their best football in Florida, in bowl games at least. Those are the ones we saw when the teams were really good, when they just missed out on BCS games. I'd like to see a Big Ten matchup. Carolina play like a Michigan or something. I've seen that projection already. But, I mean, everyone talks about how Big Ten's the best conference in college football. put them up against like the fifth, sixth best team in the SEC, and watch the SEC just roll all over them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that when I talked to Brad Crawford yesterday, his projection was the Tax Slayer Bowl, which is on the 30th. It is in Jacksonville, so you're still talking about
okay
a Florida Bowl game.
And that's not far to drive and be like a Christmas present to yourself.
Right, and he had them playing, I can't really remember, honestly. I think it was God, I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Let's see what the conference thing is for that. Let's see.
Yeah, it's either like Big Ten, ACC, or Notre
Big 12.
Dame.
Is that what we played?
No, he actually did have Michigan. Never mind, because it's Big Ten. He had Michigan. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Michigan would be interesting. The reunion of the Clowney hit. So
yeah, Tax Slayer is SEC, Big Ten, or ACC.
Right.
Yeah, so that'd probably be in Michigan or Michigan State or somebody, which would be cool. That'd be
fun. Anywhere in Florida for sure. I mean, it's going to be a lot better than going to Birmingham or Shreveport, with all due respect to you guys. But yeah, I mean, it should be fun. I mean, obviously, if you get a 9-3 with an upset win over Clemson, Citrus Bowl, stuff like that comes into play. I think either way, you got to be pretty thrilled with where you're going, especially in year 2 of the Muschamp era. So again, 24-21, Tyler. We'll see what happens.
I will come on here crying next week if South Carolina beats Clemson.
Yeah, again, we talked about it kind of off air for the show. If South Carolina beats Clemson, Twitter is going to be a pretty fun place.
My God.
We might get suspended, honestly.
I really might get suspended.
Yeah. I know you've been killing the Twitter game lately, getting like 200 retweets, having to spit some logic to Clemson fans. I have been pretty impressed. It's
not even like blatant trash talk. It's just like, just think about this for a second.
Yeah. it's been funny. I've had to get my fair share in there too. It's just I will say one, because I feel like I have to share this. One of the funniest, and I'm not sure you saw this this tweet. Well, there's 2 of them actually. There's one. I had a guy mention me Saturday night. I think it was November the 11th. This was a while ago, but I saved this tweet in my phone. He literally tweeted me and told me that he thought Clemson could bring half their team and beat South Carolina.
I didn't see
SC isn't that good. SEC East is just a weak league, proven today with Georgia being whipped, because that was the day of the Georgia-Auburn game. Literally said Clemson could bring half their team and they'd win. I had another guy that I kind of not went after, but just tried to spit, wanted to give a little bit of insight to one of our brethren there. Basically saying that South Carolina, you can't give a legitimate football reason why or how, South Carolina could win the game. You couldn't give one at all, like literally not at all. So I kind of just chimed in, and I'm gonna find it here because this is too funny, honestly, not to, because I know people don't really see our mentions. I don't make you can't see all the mentions. But I'm going to get into this here because this is pretty interesting here.
While you're finding that, I saw a pretty good tweet. It doesn't relate to the game, but I guess it was a Clemson reporter or just, and I don't know. It said enough respect for holding Wake Forest high-powered offense to 14 points. I was like, oh, what? Come on.
Yeah. So basically, what this guy said. He calls them game genital fans first. Game genital fans, if you root for your team, ride or die, with you should be no other way. If you think your team has actual football reasons that you should beat Clemson, you're high. Would be a major upset. That's why they play the game, but stop lying to yourself. Saturday, I obviously said I would love to come on your radio show and tell you how stupid this tweet is. He responded, if you could tell me right now where that tweet was inaccurate, break it down by sentence. So I gave him these football reasons. 1, Jake Bentley outduels Kelly Bryant. 2, South Carolina wins the turnover battle. 3, make Clemson offense one-dimensional. 4, this is literally a string of tweets. 4, use RPO to neutralize very talented Clemson front. Keep Clemson off balance defensively. 5, USC scheme puts Kelly Bryant in constant pressure and forces Bryant into bad decisions. 6, force Clemson to settle for field goals instead of touchdowns in the red zone. Have Clemson rely on an inconsistent kicker. His response is that with what players will you accomplish these things? If I give you Columbia high school players, you could type the same nonsense. He says, the analogy is sound. I could have said middle school. The point is I can list how to stop a team. Anyone can. You did, but it does not mean that you have the personnel to do so. If you completely shut down Tom Brady, you can beat the Patriots. And then he goes on. There was another. Here we go. And I said, again, that's what I was saying earlier with the football points. I didn't say that South Carolina would win. I didn't guarantee a win. I just think to say the team has zero chance on their home field in the rivalry game is a little much. He said, never said there's a zero chance. Hoping my team will win because it's a rivalry game. Knowing it sometimes happens is more acceptable than giving fake football reasons why it will happen. I don't expect a competitive game, but I will understand if one breaks out. So apparently everything that we said, all of our keys of the game, all of that football analysis, it's just fake reasons that maybe a team may fake win. So if South Carolina gets a fake win, I will take it because it's better than a real loss.
Yep.
So that's all I guess I have to say to that guy. It's just been – that's the type of week it's been, if anybody wants a summary of the Clemson fans in our mentions, because if a Clemson fan comes in our mentions, rest assured they will be dealt with. So with that being said, I think that's a good way to end it, Tyler. Again, the South Carolina Gamecocks, it's rivalry week. We all know what it is. The Gamecocks take on the Clemson Tigers. 7:30 at night, and Willie B on Saturday night. If you can't be there, tune into ESPN. If you are there, get in early, be loud, and give them hell. So without further ado, again, he's Tyler Clark. I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys listening. Beat Clemson, and we'll catch you next week to recap the game.